Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number, let me check my notes here, 97 of the Still City Insider podcast. This is season 4, officially the start of season 4. Every team is 0-0. The Super Bowl's over. Mr. Jim Wexell, how are you today, sir?
Good. It's the Cam Hayward episode, huh?
It's the Cam Hayward episode. Yes, Man of the
Yeah,
Year, one Man of the Year award.
yeah, that's fantastic. And seeing how happy he was about it and how hard he tried to get it and how he called it the best award in the NFL, that's impressive. And especially, Walter Payton was dear to me as a fan growing up. I was a Bears fan. And so I'm just happy for Cam that he's happy. I mean, he puts a lot of work into winning that, and it seemed like he was slighted. I mean, if the rest of the teams have a guy putting in this much work as he does, um, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
But it was difficult for him to win. I'm glad he deserves everything. He deserves them all.
Yep, definitely a high character guy.
And,
What was that?
okay, so it's a Cam Hayward episode. Yeah.
It's the Cam Hayward episode. Yes, and we've got a lot to cover here today as we kick off season 4. We're starting the off season here, but there were some cuts that were made early on. Mitchell Trubisky, the quarterback position, Chukwuma Okorafor, or Chooks for short, Presley Harvin. We'll get into all three of these, but let's start at that quarterback position. Now that Trubisky's gone, what does that mean? What are the implications? Who's going to be the starter? Who's going to be the backup? Is Russell Wilson coming to Pittsburgh? A lot to dig into here, Jim.
Well, it wasn't a surprise that he was cut because man, really, he showed that he's not it. Um, it wasn't that much money, and I'm a little surprised because they have no veteran backup, and that's not the way Steelers usually do things. But since it was apparently mutually agreed upon, and that Mitch wanted to get a reset, great. I'm all for helping him. He was a good guy.
Yeah.
But it's weird that the Steelers are doing it that way. Same thing at tackle. What if Broderick Jones breaks his leg skiing or something? I mean, that's what the Steelers always have. You wait until you have to make the move, and so uh, apparently they wouldn't even want him back if Broderick was injured. After what he was apparently said on the sideline, let's take a knee the rest of the way. Tomlin overheard him. So, he was done. But anyway, what happens at quarterback? Well, Mason Rudolph's making some noise about um, I'm having a brain freeze. Mason Rudolph's making some noise about having a career reset somewhere else, but I think that's just his agent talking.
Mhm.
I think he'll get a deal done with the Steelers and they'll bring him back. As far as this stuff about Justin Fields, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
He's got 1 year left. They have to decide now whether to give him his 5th-year option, which would be $23 million for a guy that is a project. I mean, do you just want this project for 1 year? Uh, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And also, if you're going to have to give the Bears uh, draft picks, I say no. Russell Wilson. Now, I was listening to Joe Starkey this morning talking about how they can get him for the vet minimum. And I don't understand that. So I just read a story out of Atlanta because Atlanta wants him. And they're talking about giving him a $20 million bonus, $36 million for 3 years. That's $12 million a year. And 20 million is, so it's like 19 million a year. If the numbers were reported correctly, something
Mhm.
like it, between 12 and 19, kind of affordable, but not veterans minimum. So I don't understand where he's getting at. And I like Joe as a reporter. He's a good reporter. So I'm wondering what I'm missing, why he is a veteran minimum guy. And he would interest me. But that's about it. I think it's going to be Pickett and Rudolph.
Mhm. Yeah. And I did see that Bruce Arians is talking about this year's quarterback class, and it's one of the best that he's seen in years. And that's still a possibility, but that's not going to be a player who can come in and help you this year. Do you think that that's on the table for this team to look for a player in the draft at the quarterback position?
They'll say it is, but man, I have a hard time believing. I know it's a good crop, probably deep. You can get if you can get Penix in the second round, okay. I'm not a big Bo Nix fan. McCarthy, man, he looks like the kind of guy that's going to prove me wrong no matter what I say.
Mhm.
So, that kind of guy, smarmy Michigan guy. So, yeah, go somewhere else. Where's Harbaugh going to be? Is Harbaugh in San Diego?
Yes.
Is Harbaugh in San Diego? Well, okay. Maybe they'll make a move for him. Um, but I mean, they're going to say quarterbacks on the table. They're going to look at them, and you're going to hear a lot of reports. And the Adam Schefters of the world and Mike Florios are going to be saying Tomlin loves this guy, Tomlin loves that guy. Watch Tomlin, watch Tomlin. And I see it's Kenny Pickett getting another year,
Yeah.
and Mason will be there. Mason will probably be the backup, and um, will be available, and will get. Kenny will probably get a quicker trigger to get yanked. So, he would not be afraid to go to Mason, no matter how the fans are booing. I think Pickett's going to start. So
Mhm.
that's how I see it.
Yeah. Yep. And it's interesting too, just in talking about these veteran quarterbacks and talking about Russell Wilson, because when Art Rooney talked to the press again, I forget who the interview was with this time, maybe Bob Pompiani, but he didn't roll out bringing in a veteran quarterback. So it's definitely something interesting that we need to monitor, these next couple months.
Well, why would he rule it out? See, I didn't hear the question. I mean, you leave that. Would you consider a veteran quarterback bringing one in? Well, sure. Come on.
Yeah.
Um, I don't see it unless if it's Russell Wilson, then give him really cheap. He's the only one that really interests me. Kirk Cousins is going to be way too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it. I mean, the news is so bad. Everybody says, "Well, geez, the news is getting used to the internet and all the hacks out there, and we can believe the stories now because the media is becoming more sophisticated. It's becoming worse. I wouldn't listen to any of that stuff. Justin Fields excites Tomlin. Are you kidding me? For $23 million for that junk accuracy? I I I can't. I can't. I mean, this stuff is coming on Facebook now from fan sites that call some reporter that doesn't even have access, an insider, according to an insider, says this. I mean, you got to be kidding me! And people are just gobbling this stuff up on Facebook. There's a lot of really bad news out there.
Yeah.
As I always say, just hang tight here. I mean, we're not in a race to make stuff up. And I think I have a more reasonable temperament than to calm all these fears. I think what I said about Pickett and Mason is not going to excite anybody, and it's not going to get us any clicks, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
That's
I
fine.
don't know how you can even market that because nobody wants to hear that. But
It's the
that's
real
what we're going
deal.
to be looking at.
It's
Huh?
this is season 4. It's the real deal. This is the no BS Steelers source, right? That's what this is.
Well, yeah. See, when people advertise as no BS, I tell the truth. That leads to bluster, and they're going to say this guy sucks. The more they can say this guy sucks, if you can say T.J. Watt sucks, then you're the most informed reporter because you see something that no one else does, and you're not afraid to buck the team and become a cheerleader. Yeah, all that nonsense. So
Yeah.
anyway, why did you let me go on that rant?
Because I think that's why people watch the show is for your rants. So we got to get one of them in at least every episode. And we started season 4 with that. And speaking of rants, let's close this out with these cuts. Let's talk about Presley Harvin and, the punter project that never worked out. I was excited when he was drafted, the whole Thunder Leg nickname that he had in college.
Why in the world would you be excited about a punter?
I was excited that we had a guy who could flip the field and, field position is a big part of the game, but, man, that didn't work out.
Well, I tell you what, that Kansas City punter was pretty good.
Yeah, the special teams were strong for both teams. And you know what, Jim? That's perfect segue. We're not going to spend time there on Harvin, but thoughts on the Super Bowl?
No, let's not segue yet. Let's the Tommy Townsend had a net of 50 yards, 0.8. His net for his career is 42.8. Presley Harvin's is 39.4. So what looked like the best punter in the NFL the other day, it's just a couple yards ahead of Presley Harvin. I think it's his most overrated position ever.
Mhm.
I don't understand. I know he had some inconsistent punts, but Jordan Berry had better numbers than both Harvin and Brad Wing. And Jordan Berry had 40.1 net in his career, and
Mhm.
people hated him. And I never saw the reason. Every now and then people hit a bad kick.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. So you get 10 yards. I don't think it hurt their scoring defense was sixth in the league. So
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, and tackle, they don't have a backup tackle. They're gonna need a number 3 in the draft, just like they did last year. And I don't see them buying one in free agency, way too expensive. So I look for them to. I'd look for a second round pick, because if they have a first round pick, they're going to get caught up in their own overthinking of moving Broderick Jones over to replace Dan Moore and inserting the number 1 at right tackle. What if the number 1 doesn't work out?
Mhm.
And you won't know that for a while. You have to let the process play out. And so Broderick Jones will stay at right tackle. So all of a sudden, this kid has a good fourth preseason game or third preseason game, and you're going to switch positions. I don't see that happening. So I don't see a first rounder. I know there's a lot of good names out there, first round picks at tackle,
Mhm.
but I don't see them tying their hands that way, because it's going to be a tricky move. I know people want to get rid of Dan Moore in the worst way and Pat Meyer. I don't think they know what they're talking about myself, but I don't know what I'm talking about either. So what the hell?
Yeah. Yes, you do, Jim. Give yourself some credit here. So, did you watch the Super Bowl?
I did. I
And
loved it.
yeah, so
I loved it.
let's talk about it.
Even when it was 3-0, I people were complaining at the party I was at. People were complaining, and I loved it. It was hard hitting defense. There was some good defense being played, both teams.
Yeah.
And that's, I think I talked last week about how this was such an even. I never saw anything that came out so even in my handicapping. And sure enough, they go into overtime all tied up. So at least I nailed that. Now
Yeah.
you got to get lucky and win the bet. I mean, Kansas City +2. And I was even further after we talked on the show. I just said, take the 2 points because it's so even. And I
Mhm.
know my quarterback plays factored into the numbers I used, but still, 2 points plus the better quarterback, and apparently the better coach, 2 good coaches. But Mahomes didn't, Brock Purdy didn't.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I, Kenny Pickett, I think, can become a Brock Purdy if you put a good enough team around him. Maybe
Well,
not totally as accurate, but more of a fourth, more of a clutch gene. And people want to laugh at that, but it's the hardest thing about being a quarterback. Ask Brock Purdy.
yeah.
So um,
And Mahomes,
I think the Steelers can get to where the 49ers are. I mean, they don't have Mahomes,
yeah.
and probably never going to have him or anyone reasonable facsimile unless they really bottom out.
And how do you
I don't see that.
compete? I mean, and that's the question too. You watch a team like the Chiefs play, and really, I think the first half of that game, they just got dominated on the line of scrimmage. And San Francisco was a more physical team. And I agree with you. There were some really impactful hits that were taking place. But when you have that elite level quarterback who can create, it's so hard to win because you can be down and you're not. It's kind of like Ben when you had Ben. And now I'm not saying Ben was Patrick Mahomes, but you always had an opportunity to win. And
Yeah.
there at the end of the game, how do you compete with that? How does the rest of the field in the NFL compete with the Chiefs? And is this the start of a dynasty that's and better than anything we've ever seen? Or not even a start. I mean, it's already started.
I don't. I'm not buying into that. I mean, things start to happen. Money starts to play into it. People start to retire. Andy Reid, they say he's coming back, but I mean, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't worry about that. You just got to build your team. You don't have to worry so much about not having Patrick Mahomes. Just build your team. Keep taking value. And you can do what the 49ers did, and they could have won that game. They were dominating.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me, he said, Jim, you took the Chiefs. Are you nervous? Looks bad. I said, no, I'm not, because the 49ers are dominating this game and should be blowing them out, but they're not. And that always comes back to bite you.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, it did. I said, the Chiefs have alligator blood.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever hear that term?
No,
You ever watch Rounders?
I have not seen Rounders.
Man, how old am I getting? I brought Rounders up at the party. Nobody knew. Matt Damon, Rounders, Teddy KGB playing poker. This kid's got alligator blood. Check, 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 check. Alligator blood. He just hangs around. So alligator blood's become a great sports cliche, a sports analogy we can use. And the Chiefs had the alligator blood. So there's your Teddy KGB lesson. Write it down,
I'm writing it
Jeremy.
down.
Rounders.
I have my own little
Go
note.
watch it.
Whenever
You can get it on VHS.
all right. Whenever we do shows, I always take notes. You know, this is my Wexell wisdom that I call it. So I go back and refer to it every so often.
Oh man, I'm sorry for you.
Here's something I did want to ask you about and just get your thoughts on it. And I know it's irrelevant to the actual play on the game, so I probably know where you're already going to go with it. But the physical bump of Travis Kelce, of his head coach, almost knocking him over in his face. What's your take on that?
I give him a pass.
Mm-hmm.
I give him a pass.
Okay.
I, talk to him. Say, man, you can't embarrass me like that. Made me look like an old doddering man. But I mean, I get it. There are certain guys that can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, he's a big time leader on that team. So, and maybe he had a good point. Maybe he had a good point because he wasn't on the field. Yeah. So you got to have your best players out there. Come on. You want to win the Super Bowl or not?
Yeah.
Can't be bunching people. I mean, if it was a different guy, maybe I'd cut him. He'd already be cut, but it's Travis Kelce.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want Taylor Swift on your ass, do you?
I guess not. Well,
don't get yourself in trouble like you did last week.
I didn't say anything. But I guess the no response says it all. All right, Jim. Anything else we want to hear?
I can't believe a sophisticated day trader such as yourself has never watched Rounders.
I got it written down here. Rounders. I'm gonna watch it.
Here's another sports gambling movie. Let It Ride.
Let It Ride.
People think it's so stupid, but if you watch it twice, there's so many good gambling little nuggets in there. Like the one guy that keeps losing finally gets caught by the bookie. And but I don't owe you that much money, Dick. When's the last time I won? The bookie goes through his notepad. Oh, way back. And he says, 6 years ago, Monday night, the Packers, 22 to win 20. The last time the dude won. So, I mean, Richard Dreyfuss is really good in that. So those are two really good sports gambling movies. And of course, Cincinnati Kid with Steve McQueen and the Paul Newman, Robert Redford movie. I can't believe I can't remember. It's the greatest movie of all time. Where they're playing poker on the train and Paul Newman takes the money from the bad guy. It's really good. The Sting.
Man, this has been a lesson in.
We never heard of The Sting either, did you?
I have not.
How about The Godfather? Have you watched The Godfather?
Yes, I've seen The Godfather. I have, like 5 years ago. So,
okay.
I'm a nerd. I don't watch TV. I'm always reading, so or playing with my kids.
Okay. You're allowed.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that's it. That's episode 97.
That's a wrap.
That is a wrap. We'll see you next week for 98. Anything you want to plug or point out?
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
Thank you so much, everybody, for liking and subscribing, sharing with your family and friends. We'll see you back here next week. Until then, thank you so much for your support. We love you guys. Have a great rest of the week. Take care, everyone. See you, Jim.